course, just like you have requested, the session is being recorded. Hopefully, I'll be able to go far this morning, considering our time. My slide is a bit lengthy, and the slide is designed for everyone who has no background knowledge on what a business process modeling is. So it is a bit lengthy, but I'll try to do justice to it and deliver it within, of course, I can't deliver all, maybe about 40% of what I have on the slide, I'll be able to deliver within this short period. And of course, I'll provide the recording so you can always go to the recording and get yourself updated if required. And hopefully, I'll be back to see if we can do final justice to it. But the session today is to give you an introduction, is to help take away every form of fear, is to give you the background needed when it comes to modeling a process. Because for most of us, when we hear process modeling, we are always scared. Well, maybe it is due to how the business analyst body of knowledge has put it, because for you to be referred as a professional when it comes to business analysis, you must be able to put a BPMN, you must be able to model a process. So the first question here will be, what is a process? And then we just take it up from there. So you're welcome once again. My name is Ben. Of course, when it comes to Learning Hub, maybe for those of you that may not know, I think to the glory of God, we started this together. Maybe that should be about maybe 3 years ago or thereabouts now. But of course, Learning Hub has grown to become what it is today. So, and I want to appreciate every one of you for your perseverance and of course, for even finding it worthy to be here this morning. What is a process? Let's just go quickly into it. If you have got questions, the reaction button is live. Even you can unmute at any point if you think that you raised your hand and I didn't respond on time, but I will always give room for you to ask questions. So yeah. So what is a process? If you hear the word process, what do you think process is? I would have loved to do some question and answering, but let's make it a lecture forum and I'll give room for questions. What is a process? If you hear the word process, what comes to your mind? Based on what we have on the screen, process is identified as an internal operation. It's as simple as that. When you hear the word process, it is regarded, it is understood to be an internal operation that does what? It helps to deliver products or services to customers, that is to an organization customers. So the word process in itself tends to mean an internal operation. And this internal operation is brought about in order to help deliver products and services to customers. So the end result of a process is to deliver either product or service to a customer. So the question is, how is a product delivered to a customer, or how is a service delivered to a customer? If we have a very good understanding of how this come about, then what we have just understood is what is called a what? A business process. Now, what do we mean by modeling this process? When you talk about modeling the process, what you are doing is just putting together in form of a diagram that internal operation. I repeat, what you are doing when we say you are modeling a process is what you are drawing. As simple as that. You are drawing the internal operation of that particular business. For example, your kitchen in your house. What is the outcome of whatever happens in your kitchen? The outcome of whatever it is that you are doing in your kitchen at the end of the day is to produce food on the table. Whatever activity that is carried out in your kitchen, either you are cleaning it or you are, because of course there can be a lot of activity that you can be doing in your kitchen. Sometimes it can be thorough cleaning. Why are you cleaning it? Because you want to ensure that where you are cooking your food is suitable for that purpose. Or sometimes it can be you cooking in that kitchen. At the end of the day, the result of whatever it is that you are doing in your kitchen is to ensure that, of course, what food is on the table. So whatever it is that is the internal operation of an organization, it is to do what? It is to help deliver a product or a service. So when you hear modeling business process, all we are saying in simple form is drawing the process of an organization. That is, drawing the internal process of an organization. Now, let's take it a bit forward. Why will an organization want to model a process? Or why is it important to model a process? Of course, to understand what is currently happening. One of the reasons why we may want to model a process is to understand what is currently happening. And that we call Aziz. We want to understand what is happening at the moment. For you in any organization to understand what is happening at the moment, there is a need to do what? There is a need to model a process. To sometimes explain to those working on the process what they do and how they carry out this task, and even how this task relates to one another. I remember one of the projects I worked on, the organization want to reduce paper communication. And as a matter of fact, of course, I was the BA on this particular project. And I was to put together, if I'm not mistaken now, the business case just to provide justification, for the project. It was identified that the project will save the organization, if I'm not mistaken, around, is it 10 million pounds annually? So there was a need to put the process together. Now, what process are we putting together? Don't forget, I said a process has to do with internal operation. So the process I was meant to put together on that particular project was how this paper communication was being originated and sent out to customer. Mark my word, how it is originated. So the first question is, how is this paper originated? The format, the system that takes care of this, from system A to system B to system C, the internal operation of how this paper communication was identified, was originated, and of course, to the extent which it is sent out to customer. Why do they want to see this? They want to see this so that when they go to the board of directors, it can serve as as a means of explaining. In interview, they will always ask you, how do you communicate as a business analyst? How do you help the business team that are non-technical to understand the technicalities of what happened within the development team? How do you serve as a bridge between the technical team and the non-technical team? I think that is the question. One of the answer, because that is what you are there to do. You are there to be a bridge as a business analyst. And one of the answer, of course, that you can build a case on is modeling a business process. Because when you model a business process, a business stakeholder may not even understand the process until when you have been able to draw it and they can now see. I remember on another project, this has got to do with developing an application. And while we were developing the application, I think I was still sharing this with some of my participants on Saturday. We were to identify, because iOS has got, there is a law on iOS device, or iOS as an organization, that for every customer that register while on an application, for a customer that register on an application, that same customer must be able to delete their detail as far as the application is concerned. So if customer is registering on an app, like yesterday, I was out with family, and of course we were in a restaurant. They asked us to download this app, and children, whatever meal the children take is going to be for free. once we are able to download the application. I smiled because I understand what is happening. Number one, they are collecting our data. Now, while they were collecting our data, I was having a conversation with my wife. I said, there's no way you will come here tomorrow and you will get anything for free. Do you know why? Because their unique identifier was was our, rather, what's it called now? Our Apple ID. So it's not even our phone number. It is our Apple ID. So it's even possible that you have two, for myself now, I've got maybe 3 devices. They are all iOS. And trust me, I'm using one Apple ID on all of my devices. So that means me going to that eatery, I can only use it once, except I have other Apple ID. So Apple ID is our unique identifier. They are trying to bring in collecting customer data. Don't forget, they will start sending me marketing messages, either I like it or not, because I have clicked on I accept something at the end of the day. But where am I driving at? In order to understand the internal operation of any organization, to explain to those that are even working what they are doing. When I put some of this process together, you will see stakeholders very happy, thanking you. And I'll be like, you are thanking me, but you are paying me. Why are you thanking me? But what happened here is that they now have a very good understanding of what they are doing, of how this process connects from one system to another, to help ensure consistency. That is another reason why a process is being modeled. I'll just move quickly because of my time. To help identify, this one is very important, to help identify problems and weaknesses of an existing business process. I often hear, of course, BAs like yourself, when we talk, most especially around process analysis, people don't tend to have a very good knowledge of how the process analysis can be properly explained. But of course, hopefully, maybe if I come back, we can always have an insight into that, and we're going to look at that maybe properly, because like I said, this topic is a comprehensive topic and this is a full slide for my participants. But of course, I'm doing this for you today so that you guys can gain enough value. So one of the reasons why we can model a business process is to identify problems, is to identify weaknesses that are existing in a business process, and of course help organization to highlight areas of improvement. I can jump this, you don't really need this. I can jump this, you don't really need this. Now, process map versus process model. And I keep sharing if I have the opportunity. Most times, even at the place of work, they call it process map. Process map is an umbrella name. You need to know that sometimes those that are even giving you the task, they don't know the difference between a process map and a process model. But for theoretical knowledge, a process map is not as detailed as a process model. Let me put it to you that way. So when we say, when we identify, this is theoretical. So don't go to your place of work, they ask you to go and map a process. You are telling them, oh, Ben said a map is not as detailed. No, that's not it. This is just for theoretical knowledge. For some of you that will be writing your professional exam, this is, of course, just another advantage. A map rather shows a set of related process. A map shows a set of related process and how they are interacted, most especially in a single diagram. A process map is always a straight line diagram. It doesn't really go into the process and explain what is happening in the process. Let's give an example. An organizational view of maybe Amazon will help to explain what I mean. Now, if you look at Amazon as an organization, I know most of you have got the Amazon app on your phone, and you leverage it to carry out some form of commercial activity, that is some form of buying or even selling. You never can tell. So when you look at the process map of Amazon as an organization, you will discover that there are different departments in Amazon, isn't it? We can look at it from the angle of the sales department, the marketing department, the delivery department. You can have all these departments, present within Amazon. And a process map will just have a high level view of whatever it is that is happening in this department and how they are connected to one another. So in a high level format, because it shows a set of related processes. But
Yes,
when we
please.
talk about a process model shows a more detailed view. And most times that is why we use the word, it helps to drill down from level 0 to level 4. What do they mean by drilling down from level 0 to level 4? On a process map, you are just seeing a high level diagram, a diagram that has got no form of identification when it comes to the actors. But when you are talking about a process model, not only are you going to identify the actors, you are going to identify the tasks that are carried out by the actors. That is another level. You are going to identify the various decisions that are present within the lane of that actor. That is another level. You are now, mark my word, you are going to do what? Number one, you are going to identify the actors. We are coming there, we'll get there. You are going to identify the actors. You are going to identify what is being carried out by the task of each of these actors. You are going to identify the decision points of the actors. You are now going to identify, that's the most interesting part. If you understand process modeling, you will be able to break down the task into steps. I hope I'll be able to get there for you guys today, because that is really the advantage of process modeling, and that is how you can easily model a process. For one of my participants, I think she's got an interview, and they sent her this crazy question. When I saw the question the first time, I didn't even pay cognizance to that. I just thought, I'm like, okay, come to class, we'll look at it together. And on the day I told her to come, I had a very good look. I was having a very good look at the question, and I'm like, wow, if you are not knowledgeable on process modeling, you can't pass this interview. There is no way you can pass it, because they are not even asking her now to map or to model a process. If they are asking her to model a process, of course, it's a very simple task. Almost everyone can model a process. They are asking her to analyze the process and come up with the problems that are present in that process. If you map an Aziz, you cannot really identify problems to a large extent. Not until you are decomposing the task to steps. Because, we'll get there. Let me not stress you. So this is an outlay of a map. Of course, you can see sales department to marketing to finance. It's a straight line diagram. It's high level. It's not really depicting much. Now, let me just move quickly away from here so that we can get somewhere. How do you come about business process? Either in form of a map or in form of a model. Don't forget, a map is high level. A model is low level. It's drilling down into the process. For example, maybe I should give this example again. If you are looking at the map of maybe United Kingdom, or maybe if you are looking at the map of Great Britain, for I want to believe, maybe 85% of everyone on this call, you are here in Great Britain, isn't it? You can't identify where your house is to a large extent if you are looking at the map in itself. But by the time maybe the map is now being decomposed, the map is being opened up, you are now looking at, for example, a particular location. Maybe you are looking at Hertfordshire, you are looking at maybe East London, you are looking at some areas. Then you can now begin to identify even probably maybe where your house is. But looking at the map in itself, probably the map of UK, you can't identify where your house is. Not until you have gone into the map, you have opened it up, then that is when you now begin to identify, oh, this is where East London is, this is where West London is, this is Wales, this is Scotland, and what have you. And that is exactly what we are saying when we are talking about process map and process modeling. Modeling is going into the map. And the question is, how do you go in? Because in every organization, this map are present. Sales department is present. Marketing department is present. Delivery department is present. How then do you go into their internal operation? That is a question that I believe somebody is asking themselves now. How do I go into their internal operation? You must be able to identify someone within that department that will answer that question for yourself. That is only how you can draw their internal operation. There must be a go-to person in sales. There must be a go-to in any department that you want to model the process, or in any environment you find yourself that you need to model a process. I keep telling people, the process of an organization is not in your kitchen, it's not in your room, because most times we work from home, isn't it? And if you are like myself, that my desk is very close to my kitchen so that I can eat every now and then, it's not on your kitchen, it's not in your kitchen, it's not on your desk. But for you to model a process, I need a go-to person, because how can I identify what is happening in East London if probably I'm not speaking to the mayor, or I'm not speaking to the councillor, or someone representing that environment? It is only when, if I'm speaking to someone that is situated in that environment, that I can get information. Oh, I've been told to map a process within the sales department. Then the first question that is coming to my mind is, who is the go-to person? Who do I go to in sales department? Although I'm not saying that elicitation rather is only the form of what am I looking for now? I'm not saying that interview or workshop is the only form of identifying or eliciting information that you leverage to model a process. There is also another technique that we can leverage. Of course, techniques such as document analysis can be your best bet. In some cases, all you may have is documents, and you leverage that documents to put your process together. In another case, you can also leverage observation. Most times, especially when we are drawing what we call the value stream mapping, you don't just want to elicit requirement alone. You want to do the legwork. Of course, value stream mapping is more technical than, or is a part of process modeling, but to a large extent is more technical, because we are now of how do I put this to you now? It's been carried out most especially in the manufacturing industry, and it has to do with time and some other critical information, although it's outside the scope of what we are discussing today. But I'm just saying that so that you don't assume that it is only via interview or probably maybe a workshop that you elicit information that you use in mapping a process. There are other techniques that can be leveraged as well. I'm just trying to submit that before I move quickly. But if you want to model a process, there must be a go-to person or a go-to set of people that you will ask questions and that will provide you answers that you will use in mapping or modeling a process, as the case may be. You will gather information from process participants. I've already said that. You need to identify, before you start mapping a process, you need to identify the start and end point of the process. It's very, very important. Very, very important. And even for those of you that have not heard about what we call SIPOC analysis, is an interesting analysis. SIPOC is a technique that is being leveraged in order to analyze a process. Even sometimes you even want to pick a particular task and you want to do justice. Of course, SIPOC model is an interesting model. And what is SIPOC? For those of you that are writing, SIPOC tends to mean supplier, input, process, output, consumer, or customer. If we have time, we can come to all these just to provide a very simple insight into what they mean. You need to break the process, and this is very important. Whenever you are documenting a process, it must be broken down into task and decision points. What is the advantage of a process if you don't have a task and a decision point? Okay, let me just pick something, just one thing here, and I'll move away quickly. If it is a process map, one of your best bets in identifying a map is that the start and the end button are the same. That is your best bet. The start and the end button, they are the same. If you see any diagram where the start and the end button are the same, it is a map. So let's move quickly. So when you are modeling a process, now we are not just giving a high level, we are drilling down. We can start by producing a map, because a map is just like a straight line diagram, isn't it? It gives us like an insight how we can quickly sketch what a model looks like. The readability of a model is enhanced if each process and task is, of course, carried out using the standard approach. When you are modeling a process, even according to the BABOK, Business Analyst Body of Knowledge, You must ensure that your task is named using the standard approach. And what is the standard approach of naming each of the tasks? It is what we regard as a verb noun. So if you are naming anything in your model, you should always use the verb noun format. What is a verb noun format? An example can be upload picture, upload item, delete item, whatever it is, delete document. Let's take, for example, if you are using your banking app as a case study, what are the tasks that you can carry out as a customer on your banking app? Of course, you can send money, make payment. Let's use the right word, make payment. You can view statements. You can make payment. You can view statements. What other things can you do on your mobile app? Let's throw it open. Hi, guys.
Buy airtime.
Purchase airtime, buy airtime. Let's go. Who else? Let's go. You have got the mobile app. So what can you do with it?
View statement.
View statements. Thank you. Let's just stop there. So you can view statements, you can make payment, you can do all these things on your mobile app. So when you are naming the task carried out by any actor, always ensure that you use the verb noun format. Now, when we say I'm almost done. I think I want to stop on slide 17 or 18, and I can say I'm already on 14. Wow, that's fantastic. So that I can accommodate your questions. So when we want to model a process, the start of a process, I mentioned it the other time, is very important. You must know the start of the process and, of course, the end of the process. Because if you don't know the start of the process and the end of the process, you may not be able to put the process together. You may find it difficult to put the process together if you are not able to identify the start and the end point of the process. So from what we've got on the screen, the start of a process can be represented in various ways. Of course, I already mentioned swim lanes. I want to believe that most of you know what a swim lane is, but if not, maybe before the end of the class, I can go to Visio and I can show you what a swim lane is. But all these things, they are English words. I'm sure you have gone to a swimming pool before. And when you get to, most of you go to the gym. When you get to your the swimming pool at your gym, you will discover that the swimming pool is being demarcated in lanes. The reason why they are having it in lane is so that participant A, for example, does not cross into participant B's lane. Most especially if you are watching a competitive game or competitive sports where we have swimmers, or even those that are running, you will discover that 100 meter, 200 meter, everyone has got their lane, isn't it? And the reason why they have their lane is so that you don't disrupt the other person. Thank you very much, Joyce. Like Olympic, you don't disrupt the other person's activity. So stay on your lane. Whatever it is that you want to do, we even have that slang, isn't it? Stay on your lane. Oh, stay on your lane means don't disturb me, isn't it? Yes. So that's exactly what they are talking about here. Swim lane. So the swim lane here means that for every actor, they have got their own swim lane. So imagine the 5 of us now, we visit a swimming pool. Maybe myself, David, Hilary, Jeff, and Tunde. 5 of us will visit a swimming pool. Now, if the 5 of us visit a swimming pool, the 5 of us, we have our own lane. So either you are swimming forward or you decide to swim backward, you are doing that on your own lane. That is what swim lane is. So in a process, it is identified that as many actors that you've got, so that we can, because what the whole essence of drawing is to show what we are doing, is to put together the internal operation, is to show anybody. So it is very important that for everyone acting within that process, you give them a swim lane. Oh, we send this document to probably the sales manager. Give the sales manager a swim lane. From the sales manager, it goes to the security. I'm giving an example now. From the sales manager, the information goes to the security at the department. Head of security, give head of security a swim lane. So the first thing that you want to do is to identify the actors in that process. And as many actors that you've got, give each of these actors a swim lane. That way, you will be able to identify what they are doing. And of course, you'll be able to put it in form of documentation. So swim lanes are used to represent each actor present. It is usual. This is a very important information now. This last paragraph, last sentence. It is usual for the swim lane of the process initiator to be at the top of the model. Whenever you are modeling a process, the swim lane that initiates the whole process must be at the top of the model. Don't put a diagram together, a process model together, and your process initiator, that is, whoever it is that starts that process, is at the middle or is at the bottom. If you do that, you are doing the wrong thing. So what am I trying to say? Whoever it is that is initiating the process, their swim lane should be at the what? Their swim lane should be at the top. The end of a process can be represented, of course, by a bullseye. We are going to see that. And I think I also like this part. Process have multiple pathways. Process have multiple pathways. That is, your process can end in various ways. It doesn't mean that when you are modeling a process, it should have only one end. Process can end in multiple ways. I think I still have some few things to share before I go. So if you look at this slide, you can see the start button and you can see the end button. There are two different buttons compared to the process map. I know there are other symbols there. We have got different types of decisions. Trust me, hopefully, I promise to come back one of these days and we are going to look at some of these, because I know you guys said you want something practical. That is why I'm trying to give you this information in a simpler version. If you have this background knowledge, there is no process that will look difficult to you, because whatever it is that is identified as a process, you'll just be able to model it. Sometimes all we need is a good foundation, isn't it? If the foundation is solid, there is no process that is hard. Trust me. All you just need to understand is how to put a process together. If you do, whatever it is that is identified as a process, you'll be able to model it. Now, when we say a business process, a lot of things can trigger a process, but in a process, there are 5 key components. And what are those components? Of course, a process is made up of a task. In a process, you are going to see a lot of tasks. Oh, what is the sales manager doing? That is the task of the sales manager. The sales manager is probably maybe uploading a document, is just like you guys said, viewing the statement. Whatever it is that is the task of an actor, you will always find it in a process. A process will always have a flow. Because it's a journey. It has a start and it has an end event. So a process is a flow. In a process, you will always find a decision point. There's always a decision point in a process. Very important. You will always find a decision point in a process. In a process, actors are the one who carries out this task. Using your bank as an example, you are an actor, either you like it or not, because you are carrying out some specific task on your banking app. You view the statement, you make the payment, either you like it or not, you are an actor. The outcome, of course, for every process, there is an outcome, there's an end result to it. So these 5 components must be present in any process or modeling, process modeling that you are putting together. So, okay, I think I still added the task and the steps to it. So what is a task and what is a step? Now, process is the name of everything at the end of the day. It's the name of the flow. So process refers to the entire set of activities, that triggers events, and to a large extent, there is an end to it, with some form of output to be delivered. That is an established fact. We have said that already. So when you see, for it to be identified as a process, these 5 components are present. That is why we have been able to identify it as a process. Now, what is a task? Very important for you to know. A task refers to an identity. A task refers to an individual activity within the overall process. So what are the actors? What are they doing? What they are doing that we have documented in form of a verb noun is categorized as a task. They are carried out at a single point in time. View statements. You carry out viewing statements at a single point in time. Make payment. You carry out make payment at a single point in time. But there is more to it, especially if you are analyzing a process. And that is what will take us to the next information which is a step. So what is a step? A step refers to the activity carried out within a task. So if we say view statement now, of course, you are viewing your statement, but there are some things that you are doing before you achieve that statement that you want to view. So if we look at view statement holistically, there are some set of activities underneath it. For example, if you don't log into the app, I'm not sure you can view your statements. So for you to be able to view your statement, there are some activities that are needed to be done. You won't see this on the process map. You will only see this if you are holistically analyzing an Aziz. And this is where you can now begin to identify problems in a process. Because when we say the word view statement, it's very good to the ear, but there are some activities under view statement. Can you view your bank statement without logging into the app? So for you to view statement, number one, you must log into the app. Then probably after you log into the app, you must, maybe another thing that you must do is you must identify the view statement button. Luckily for you, maybe the view statement is what you can easily identify, but if I remember very well, I think it is it one of these bank app now? Is this Santander? Very complex for you to be able to view the statement. So there are some other things that you still need to do. Probably you need to click on a particular toggle. You need to open, you just discover that for you to view statements, there are some activities that you will do for you to view statements. And that is what the step is referring to. Step refers to activities carried out within an individual task. Send documents. Oh, it's very sweet to the ear. But the fact is that for that document to be sent, what are those things that must be done for the document to be sent? Maybe before the clerk can send the document, the clerk, number one, would have gone through the document. The clerk would have opened the document. The clerk, number two, would have probably imputed some values in the document. The clerk, number three, would have probably signed the document. So these are activities that are embedded in sent documents. And that is why steps are always crucial, especially when we are analyzing a process model. So I think I'm rounding up now. A business process model can be used during a process improvement project. I'm sure you all know this already. It is common for yourself as a BA to produce an Aziz in form of a diagram to show how the process works at the moment. Analyzing this Aziz will help to identify weaknesses, problems, which will help to lead to an improved version, that is the to-be process model. Once you have put together the Aziz, it has been properly analyzed, then that can give an insight to what the to-be is. It's not in all cases. In some cases, a to-be has already been identified. For example, a target has already been set. Some organizations call it target operating model. They already have a model that they are working towards, that they are aiming to achieve. Now, they also have their current state. The question now here is, how do they move from their current state to the target state that has been identified? In that case, then they begin to have, of course, there's going to be a discussion around what is the gap, or what are the gaps? What are the gaps of our current state compared to our to-be state? If we are able to identify the gaps, then we can now begin to give each of these gaps an action. What do we need to do? Okay, this is a gap. In the next 3 months, I want to be a BA. At the moment, probably I'm working as an administrative officer, but my target is that I want to become a BA. So the question is that you being a BA at the moment, and you being an administrative officer at the moment, and you becoming a BA in the next 3 months, of course, two different things, Aziz and to be. Then what are the gaps? There are gaps in form of knowledge. What do I need to know that will translate me from an administrative officer to a BA? Oh, I need to join an academy. Oh, I need to, of course, you now list out all the gaps. By the time you list out all the gaps, then you now begin to look at how you can get these gaps done. So if you are able to get these gaps done, that is why in some organizations, they even at the end of the day want to give each of the gaps an owner, and of course identify the actions, so that once all these actions are carried out, automatically you can achieve your target, but it's a lot. But let me give room for questions, and then let me just stop here for now.
Sorry, that activity and step, can you show me like the diagram or what you used to represent it? I want to see the difference.
I don't have any case study here, but it's very simple. For you to break down a task into a step, you may need to leverage, of course, maybe your Microsoft Word, for example. You may need to put a table together. Are you with me now? I can't. Who asked the question? Hello. I'm asking so that we can have a heart-to-heart discussion. Sorry, who is that?
That should be Ify.
Oh, okay. Hi, Ify. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but it's like you moved away from the device. Okay. So now, if you have been able to model the process, you will understand that from the process that you have been able to model, there are various tasks that you have written, isn't it? So you can easily bring each of these tasks on a table, and you can just label it. It's very simple: task and steps. So for each of the tasks, you can then label the activities that makes up the task. And from there, let's take, for example, you have 5 tasks. So for each of the tasks, what are the activities? What are their steps? So if you put this on a table, probably on a Microsoft Word, for example, then we can easily have a discussion around the activities. Which of these activities are adding value to this particular task? Or which of these activities probably are manual labor that we can tend to automate, that if we do, it can probably hasten the time that is being involved in order for this product or services to be delivered. And that is the whole essence of breaking down your task into steps. So you can just use your Microsoft Word to do that, and you can just put it in form of a table. Very simple. 2 tables, task and steps. That's all.
How about you open your Visio and just show us on your Visio?
It's not on my Visio, and that's what I'm saying. And you may not even be able to achieve it on your Visio. Let me see. I can, of course, I've got a lot of process on my own. I'm not sharing on my screen. Now, can you see my screen? I think this is a simple process on my screen. Now, if you look at this now, for example, if you look at this Uber and you look at this driver, one of the, what's it called now? One of the tasks of this driver is to pick customer. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Now, in order for this customer to be picked, there are some activities, there are some steps that are involved in the picking of this customer. It is not a sub-process. Don't mix it up. It is a task. Now, I don't even want to go into that subject, not to confuse people that are having their simple foundation into what a BPMN is all about. Now, this pick customer, I can easily go on Microsoft Word. If I go on Microsoft Word, just give me. It's very simple. I can easily go on Microsoft because now I am analyzing the process now. So I can create a table and I can just name it task. Are you with me?
Yeah.
I just name it task. And I can name these steps. Are you with me now? So what is that task? Pick customer. Now, who is the actor? Whoever is the actor, then I begin to ask questions. So when you say you are picking customer, what do you mean by picking customer? What are the steps? What are those things that you do in order for you to pick customers? Then I can begin to list out the steps. Either maybe there are 2 or there are 3. Once I'm done, then I can go to the next task. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
These, I've been able to decompose whatever it is that is on that diagram. Not only do I have the task, but I've been able to also identify the steps. This will help me to critically analyze an Aziz. Does that make sense?
Yes. But now let me quickly just add something. If you open your Visio, right, the because now everything is just off my head for some reason. All these tasks that I like pick customer, where do you normally show the steps? What's it called? The steps of picking this customer now in the same diagram, this same, I've forgotten the name. It's not coming to my head now. These this task boxes or something. Do you put the steps in there as well?
You don't need to, because if you put the steps in here, how do you want to do that? If you put number 1, make your diagram as simple as possible. If you see this diagram that is on my screen now, I may not have walked you through the diagram, but if anybody sends you this diagram, you can easily understand what this diagram is, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Because it is a simple diagram. So whenever you are modeling a process, make it as simple as possible. That is a number 1 important point that you must do. Make your process in form of a modeling, because the whole importance of you modeling a process is for anyone to look at that process and have a very good understanding of what you have put together. If you have a process and you are the only one that can explain it, you have done rubbish. I don't know if you get what I mean. Because at the end of the day, the process is expected to be documented in a repository, and you might have left the organization. It is expected that someone can pick up that process, understand that process, and continue on that journey. But imagine you have put a process together that it is only you that can understand it. Then there is no point in whatever it is that you have put together in form of a process. Now, I'm going somewhere. The only reason why you may need to document a step, don't forget, is because you are trying to analyze the Aziz. If there is no need for you to analyze the Aziz, and why are you analyzing the Aziz? You are analyzing the Aziz, number 1, to identify problems or bottlenecks within the process. Are you with me now? For example, what does it take to drop customer at destination after the customer is being picked? I'm not sure we have answer to this question from this slide or from this screen. But if we take a quick look at the steps, then we can easily identify, probably maybe even in form of time, what it will take the driver to drop the customer at the destination, even when the customer is being picked. Because looking at it from this particular screen, I don't have answer to that question. But if I drill down into the task, I can easily answer that question. I don't know if I'm adding value to you or I'm confusing you.
Yeah, Mr. Ben, just to add to what you just said. So maybe there is a problem, maybe there is a delay in driver dropping customers. Maybe that's the problem. Now, if they want to actually identify why do we have that problem, so they will now drill down into the steps that it takes to probably drop off a customer, which would definitely include probably payments or when you drop a customer at the location, which they definitely, before a customer drop off, you pay. Maybe during the payment, maybe there is something that happens, maybe the customer uses card or uses cash or whatever it is, POS, all that, then they will not do this. So I think that's what Mr. Ben is trying to do.
Yeah, and don't forget, excuse me, don't forget that one thing that I said is that you will always drill down into a step if you are analyzing the Aziz. So don't mix it up. So sometimes you can model a process and it doesn't even it's not required for you to identify the steps. So you move on. You model your process and you move on. But if we are now to sit down, we want to analyze the process, we want to identify bottlenecks within the process, then there may be a need for us to decompose our task into steps. I think there is Abim raising her hand. But before I go to Abim, Esther, I can see your hand is still raised. Is your question being answered or you still have more?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh,
So,
is that okay? Go for it.
you called Esther. My name is Esther.
Oh, okay. You are the one raising your hand. Go for it.
Okay, so from experience, I noticed that the naming convention of verb noun that you mentioned might not be achievable all the time. So, particularly depending on the requirements you have. So, what do you do when you have such? You are not able to achieve the
you try as much as possible. Thank you. I think it's a valid question. Of course, irrespective of whatever it is, sometimes, especially if you are eliciting this requirement or you are gathering this information, stakeholders can be very funny. So you want to try as much as possible to name it. Of course, while doing that, you want to ensure that it suits whatever it is that they have said. If you want to add more value in respect to what you have written, so that probably you want anybody to understand, then you can use what we call a call out. So this is a call out. So if you put a call out, then you can use a call out to add more context into what you have written. But best practice, always ensure that your task is captured as verb noun. If you want to add more information to it, use a call out. If you use a call out, anyone will definitely understand what you are trying to say. I don't know if you get what I mean. Now, this is a call out. I can then do this, and I can add that information inside this text. So anyone going through the process will understand that, oh, okay, for this that I have written, this is an additional information to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I just needed to bring that out so that
fantastic. So that others can learn from it. It's a valid point. It's a valid point.
Sorry, I also have another question.
Go for it.
Yeah, there have been arguments of how to drill down when you are modeling a process. So, for example, you have instances of BA saying that it doesn't have to be on a single page. You can create drill down from 0 to 4. So you're drilling down, you have your first level on page 1, second level on page 2, and so on. So what's the best practice?
When we talk about drilling down, I think it's part of what I've just explained. Now, if you, I don't want you to confuse it. I don't want you to model it up now. Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to look for the best answer to give to yourself. When we are drilling down, when we say we drill down into a process, what you are basically doing is that you are breaking down a task into a step. That is what you are doing now. There's nothing, what is it called now? There is nothing more complex than that. Because whatever it is that you are seeing on the screen in form of a diagram now is not a map. This is a model. And how do I know it's a model? This, to a large extent, has been drilled down. I have identified the actors. I have been able to identify the task. Are you with me now? Now, the only drill down that is now expected from here is if I'm decomposing this task now into steps. It is different from having a process and a sub-process. That is a different ball game entirely. Of course, when you have a sub-process, you can always name it. You can have that on another sheet just to explain to any stakeholder that may want to identify, of course, what is happening, because it is a sub-process. A lot of activities are happening there, and you have captured it as a sub-process. So they may want to ask, what is this all about? Of course, you can have that drawn on another sheet. That is different. But when we are talking about drilling down into a process, what you are actually saying, and I want to ensure that we're on the same page, what you are simply talking about is your task that you have, because I tell people, until you go into drilling down of a model, you are not going to appreciate what you have done. It's very simple. We even said here, we said customer reviews ride. And of course, that ends the journey at the administrator level. There are a lot of questions, although this is just a simple case study that was put together, just something very simple to allow participants understand foundation knowledge of process modeling. When we say you review ride, there are steps, there are activities that are carried out by customer in order for this ride to be reviewed. It's not documented. We just said it, we just wrote it, review ride. The question is, how long does it take for the customer to review ride? Excuse me. I'm sure most of us, we take Uber, and of course we review the ride, isn't it? You know, it takes seconds to get imagine that activity is take. Sometimes they will ask me, oh, can you wait on the call? And I'm not waiting, I'm already going. Immediately you are ending that call, because I don't have the time. I don't have unnecessary time to waste. So there is a lot of question around review ride. What does it mean to review a ride? When you say review ride, what is expected for the customers to do? If you don't have it on this table, just like we are assuming to have it now, I can't even find that table anymore. No, this is not it. I think I opened a new. Oh, I can't find it. Let me just open a new table. No. Okay. So what am I trying to say? What does it take to review a ride? If I didn't ask properly, I may not know what it takes to review a ride. All I may need to do is, okay, so do we have a customer representative? If we don't have a customer representative, of course, we can always go to the app ourselves and we can look at the task of review ride and we can attempt to carry it out. So if we attempt to carry it out, what are those things that we are doing when we are to review a ride? Then we document it as steps. Then there can be some questions around it. Oh, can we automate this? Because at the end of the day, let me ask you now, all you do at the end of the day is to click on, probably you are giving 5-star, 4-star, and that's it. To you, that's it, but that's not the end of that journey. Immediately you give the star, there are other things that happens. Of course, this probably to a large extent goes to the database of Uber as an organization, and it is what makes up the data that they will use in qualifying the driver. At the end of the day, you will see some drivers having, is it 5 points? Some having, is it 4.95? You know, and others. The question is, how do they end up with all this qualification? At the end of the day, there are some data in the repository that is backing it up. And what are those data? One of it is you clicking, is it 5-star? Is it 3-star? Is it 2-star on your own end? So you clicking that on your own end, a message is sent automatically. And of course, something somewhere is being triggered. You don't know. You just click on it and you have moved on. So when we say review ride, there are some steps, there are some activities that makes up the review ride. That is what we are saying. So it might need you to look into it. And just like you have asked, if you are modeling a process and there is a need for you to have another process probably drawn to buttress whatever it is that you have put together, then of course you can always do that on another sheet. And just like we have said, if you are decomposing your task into steps, of course you always need this particular page, which is your Microsoft Word. You can even use Excel if you want. But two things that are very important on the table that you are showing anybody is the task and the steps. Like the lady that was giving the assignment, we were able to look at the task, we were able to decompose the task into steps. And trust me, when she went for the interview, she presented it. They didn't even ask her further questions because they are like, if you have been able to put this together, that's fantastic. That got her the job. And that solves the problem. It's as simple as that. But what am I trying to say? If you are modeling a process, a 5-year-old child, and I keep saying it, a 5-year-old child should visit that process that you have modeled and should be able to explain. If you are struggling to explain your own process, then there is a problem. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, valid. Thank you. Yes.
Fantastic.
Mr. Ben, can you put little clarity on when you said sub-process and breaking tasks into steps? So
to scatter the class off.
because I don't know if anybody is thinking the way I'm thinking. I'm just thinking so that maybe some people may not be confused about that. So if you like review right, how can you talk about the sub-process in that case, and also talking about breaking those tasks into steps?
It's very simple.
Now, David, you want to confuse everybody.
Yes, but I think
the sub-process part is.
But go for it,
Steve. Just
go
done
for it.
in the simplest way.
Steve, go for it.
So I'm just trying to say that in order not to confuse people the more, you have actually explained the sub-process part in the most simplest way without necessarily saying that this is what the sub-process is all about. But if you want to go into it from the Visio mapping, that is a process mapping perspective, it might be confusing because definitely you have to go into more detail. But you have already explained that, okay, other things that happen after somebody has already put like a 5-star, 3-star, or 5-star, somebody receive a message. That is behind the scene. So that is actually the sub-process that goes on behind the scene. But anyway, you can maybe you have other way of explaining it that would be much more easier for instead of people not getting more confused. I just try to put out that thing.
Just to add to what you have said.
but did the question confuse anybody?
Don't worry, let me just go ahead. Let me go ahead. Okay. Let me do justice to it. Now, a sub-process is different from a task. It is called a sub-process because on its own, it is a process. Are you with me now? But that process is part of this process on the screen, for example. So probably you are putting a process together, and in that process that you are trying to draw, there is another process inside of it. Now that process, it has its own swim lane. It has its own actor. So there is no way you can bring the swim lane and that actor into this simple Uber and customer, just like Steve is trying to say, that when we say a review ride, for example, now he's trying to give an example that this can also be a process on its own, that if we look at review ride holistically, it may not be only customer that is involved. So if it is not only customer that is involved in review ride also has its own actors. Is each of the actors have got their own task. There is a decision gate, there is a complete process on its own, but you have come to put it on this process as one as a single entity or as a single task. Let me put it that way. Then you need to define it and let everybody know that you see this review ride though on its own, it is a process, and of course you qualify it. There is a symbol that you use in representing that. But the scope of this class is not to confuse you, but I'm just trying to explain David's question. Now, a sub-process is different from a task. When we are talking about a task, we are only decomposing, when we are talking about steps, we are only decomposing the task of a customer. There is no other person that is involved. It is only customer that carries it out. The end result of that activity is review ride. Only customer is doing all that is involved. But if it is a sub-process, other actors are involved. As a matter of fact, it has a start, it has an end event on its own. Different actors. But if you are trying to bring that process into this your one process, it will be confusing. So you just need to give it a name and add it on there as a sub-process. Just like, was it Esther that asked the question? So if anybody, maybe from the stakeholders now, they now ask question about that sub-process, you can then go to the next sheet and show them on a broader context what the process is all about, because it is like a process inside another process. I don't know if I've been able to explain to you in a simple way. A sub-process involves multiple actors, but a task, it is only for this customer, for example, review ride is a task here. We can decompose this task into steps. The understanding is that those steps, it is still customer that carries it out. It's as simple as that. It is still customer that carries it out. But if it is a sub-process, that means it is a complete process on its own. There are different actors that are involved, and of course, there are tasks and there are decision gates. David, have I confused you the more, or have I answered your question?
No, you didn't confuse me. I'm asking that question for the benefit of everybody.
Yes,
because
I understand.
I know when Madam Esther asked a question, she just asked that, so how can she map maybe talk about some processes and all of those things. When you talk about breaking tasks down into steps, some people may confuse that for some process. And that's why I asked that question so that you can make it. Yeah.
Yeah. But does it, my explanation, does it add value in any way?
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. Yes.
All right.
So, sorry, Mr. Ben, I just want to ask what Madam Esther is actually trying to say, because he said there's an argument. I don't understand the argument bit. Like, is it normal for someone to create another page?
No, she's
or
just asking
what
that
the
how
argument
best
is?
can you go about it?
All
So
right.
if there's a
Okay.
sub-process, you can always have it on another sheet. Just like our step and task is also, it's not even on Visio, it's on another document. Do you get what I mean? Because what you are trying to do is you are trying to explain, just like I said, if you are putting a process together, a 5-year-old child, mark my word, a 5-year-old child should be able to explain what you have drawn, even while you are not there. If you are the only one that can explain your process, then there is a problem. Does that make sense? I'm taking that as a yes.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. From what you said now, you said it's a process. There must be multiple actors in this.
I'm struggling to hear you.
You said something about it's a process for some processes that multiple actors must be involved. But I was thinking that when you're modeling a process and maybe the process is getting too long, maybe in the streamline is going to second page, third page, in order to make it look neater and straight to the point. There are some of those processes that you can just sub-process them in order not to have it so long, right? And you put it there and it doesn't necessarily have to have multiple actors. I mean, I've seen a sub-process like that before. Are you saying that is wrong?
You have answered the question, but at the same time, you still choose to ask the question with it, but it's fine. Now, if you hear what you have said, from what you said the sub-process at the end of the day, all these words, they are qualifying words, and we have to be careful when we use them, because if care is not taken, they'll just hold you responsible for it. I think that's one of the things that you have done now. So now, from what you have said, the process is too lengthy. In order for you to compress the process, you use the sub-process, isn't it? At the end of the day, that sub-process, you will still have to define it to others, because maybe, for example, I'm looking at the process as a business stakeholder, and you have put a sub-process on there. I don't know what that sub-process is. Either you like it or not, you have to go and show me what that sub-process is. Do you agree with me or not?
Definitely.
Hello?
Yes, I said definitely.
Yeah, so you still need to go, open up that process, and of course, show me what that process is for you to have embedded it and make it a sub-process, in this particular context. So what you have said is valid. It doesn't necessarily, from what you have said, it doesn't necessarily have to involve multiple actors, but at the same time, it is still a process on its own. And that process, you have been able to merge it together, and you have been able to, of course, qualify it as one process in order to make your process not to look ambiguous, and of course, to explain it better to stakeholders that are looking at it. But mind you, it is still a process on its own, isn't it? But I'm just trying to think on the top of my head now. How can a process? But let's leave that topic for another day.
No, because I've done it, me personally. There's a process improvement project that we worked on. And I know that when we're doing it, it was so long, like it was extending to other pages.
Is it the just one how will I call it now? The task of a particular actor is the one that is so long. It's not even connecting to another actor swim lane.
No, not yet. No.
So it is just the task of a particular actor that is so long. But at the end of the day, the end journey of that task that is so long, it will definitely connect to another actor at the end of the day, whether you like it or not.
Yes, so that's what process is there. That's what process that connects to that other actor. But because we don't want it, then we compress it in a sub-process so that, the diagram doesn't look too ambiguous.
Sorry,
your
would
point
you
is
call
valid.
that? I have a question. Would you call that a sub-process? It's still the same process. It's not a sub. It's still the same process. Just because it's too long and you break it to other pages does not make it a sub-process. Sub-process is when another process triggers another process, and that process continues. Then the triggered one is a sub-process. So it's dependent on this other process. But when it's that same process continuing and it's too long and you have to break them into other pages, it doesn't make it a sub process. That's my understanding. I don't know.
I don't want us to go into this argument, not to confuse others. Do you get what I mean? And that was why I asked her the very simple question. That doesn't mean that what you are defining as a sub process now, at the end of the day, does not connect to another actor at the end of the day. But of course, let's not end the class on that note. Of course, we can always go back, have a reflection, and we can always come back. But I understand what she's trying to say is a valid point, and what you have also contributed is also another valid point, because for it to be a sub process, it is a process on its own, and that is what I'm trying to explain. And from what she has said, she said the process map is so lengthy that at the end of the day they want to compress it. And I'm just trying to ask myself, how can a process be so lengthy? Because if the process is lengthy, then the best practice for us is to break it into subsequent processes. So if you now break it into sub-process, then of course you can now have a sub-process. What am I trying to say? When a process is so long, break it down. So don't make it lengthy because you want to explain a journey. But if it is now too lengthy, you are now looking at a process that is too big. So why don't you break down that process? Because that means the process you are looking at is an ambiguous process. So you are expected to break it down so that at the end of the day, you can see how the process connects to one another. But it's fine. I can still see your hand up, Esther.
Sorry, it's just a quick contribution.
Fantastic.
For this long process that Ify mentioned, I feel that, one of the, what's it called now? Elements, of components of process modeling is to identify bottlenecks, pain points. So in my own opinion, it's advisable to map it as is and state it as a pain point, which will translate into the to-be after actioning it. So instead of breaking it into sub-processes, I think it's just a process. There are instances of somebody being overwhelmed at work, doing everything, jack of all trades, master of none. So it's better to identify it as a pain point. I want to assume that process is an as-is. So, and that's just my contribution.
And that's a fantastic point, because of course we are looking at that particular actor now, and we're trying to say, oh, of course, if this is the task being carried out by this actor, then it is too much, isn't it? Of course, there are other things on the slides that discuss around how to analyze an as-is. And one of the things is what you have said. Another thing is hands-off, because hands-off is also another very critical area that needs to be looked at, especially if we are analyzing a process. But of course, time won't allow us to go into all that. And I also want to get contribution from participants, ensure that we all have a very good understanding of what we are trying to learn, and we can just wrap it up. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Has value been communicated today? Do you think your time on the call has been worth it? Or of
yes,
course,
I have my final contribution, please.
go for it.
I've had a process that is very long, like Ify talked about. So what I did in that case is that I mapped out a high level first on the first page. Then each of the tasks, would I put it tasks, or each of the process on that high level, I pick one box, go to the next page, expatiate on that. Each of those boxes, I had like about 15 pages on that process map. So if you have a process that is complicated like that, it's always good to have a high level, first of all,
which is your
to
map.
show people the high level. Then you now start breaking down now we can say sub-processes, all those process, each of those stencil, let me call it a stencil, one box, you make it a sub-process and break it down into subsequent pages and link it to the high-level one. So that would make people understand. Like you said, if you're in a process, you shouldn't be there to explain it. Anybody that picks it up should be able to understand it. So that's my contribution.
And that will bring it to level 4 and 5 of process mapping.
Correct. Yeah.
I think these are fantastic contribution. I think what she has just said is just like what you can see on the screen. Process can be very ambiguous. You need to first identify what process you are mapping. Imagine you are mapping an organizational process. You already know that there's a lot of work to be done because there are different departments that are involved. So just like she said, you need to provide a high-level map, which is your process map. To a large extent, that is your level 0. Now, by the time you're able to put out your process map, that is to show that, oh, this department connects to this department connects to that department. Then we can now pick out each of the departments, for example, sales, and we can then map whatever it is that is happening in sales. Who are the actors? What are the tasks? What are the decision points? Blah, blah, blah. Then you can then go to marketing and then you pick it up. You draw out whatever it is that is happening in marketing, and you will now discover that in marketing, you will have a sub-process of sales because it's like a continuation. So sales will still come in because sales connected to marketing. Before you know it, just like she has said, you are going to have a lot of pages that has now broken down the process, in such a way that when you are looking at it, you understand the flow, because that is the whole importance of putting a process together, to explain the flow and of course the connectivity, the task, the various decision points that you have. Chidinju, do you still want to say something? I want to wrap up the session. I can see your hand is raised, or is it a form of exercise? Oh, I guess he's...
Okay, I wanted to say, somebody said something about jack of all trades. I hope we know that this jack of all trades, master of none, is not a complete quote.
Yes, it is not.
Because
complete it.
All trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Yeah.
That, someone that tries many things might not have the same level of expertise as someone who focuses on one area. Yes. But the second part of that quote is suggesting that a jack of all trades can sometimes be better than a master of one. So that we'll stop using that quote like
wrongly.
Yeah, wrongly.
Of course. That's also another side to it. So thank you very much, guys. I'll definitely provide the recording so that you guys can have access to it.
Yeah, but please don't put me back for the practical. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll sort that out. So, Mr. Davis, over to yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Ben. Thank you. Can we just give a round of applause to Mr. Ben? Is there a place we can clap here?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's clap.
It was a very, very lovely and insightful class. Every bit of it.
I got a question for Chidindu.
And Mr. Ben, I did not sleep because of you.
Yeah.
I did not sleep because